This week on Boots and Backstraps, we've got Matt Mithun, the new owner and producer of the WeFest. He shares stories of the transition in ownership and some secrets about this year's show. Stick around till the end, where we talk about how to prepare pheasant.
Brought to you by Homes by Shane and produced by Danny Geo Productions.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Boots and Backstraps podcast.
Come on now.
The hunt is on, looking for backstraps, way deep in the woods, tracking in a swamp to a hay field under the harvest moon. When the tags are filled, it's time to switch up our boots. Head down to the honky tonk, get us a swing dance or two. We're talking about boots and backstraps.
Hey everybody, this is a show where we talk all things hunting and country music.
From the classics through today.
From big bucks to bull elk. We've got it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Boots and Backstraps. I'm your host, Shane Michael, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and country music legend and damn attractive gentleman over here, Mr. Tomcat.
Come on now.
How we doing, sir?
Doing good, Shane. How are you?
I'm great. We're back in the saddle for episode whatever number it is now.
Yeah.
4? 4. Must be 4. Jill says 4. It's got to be 4. Well, Jill runs my life, so she says 4. It's 4.
She knows more than we do.
She does. Probably both of us put together.
We're going to have a great show tonight. I'm really excited.
I am super excited because we're going to be taking two different approaches to the same topic. And I think that's going to be really interesting to all of our fans out there and the ones that listen in.
And I know he went and jumped through some hoops to get here tonight.
He did.
And he's going to be jumping on a plane early in the morning. And even though he and I kind of worked together for many, many years, I think I've maybe only met Matt once. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Matt Mithun. Matt is the new owner and producer of the world's largest country music festival, the WeFest.
Yes, indeed.
Something that's special to me, and I'm quite confident that Matt and Live Nation are going to bring the WeFest back to where it used to be, the number one in the nation. So, Matt, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you. That was a nice intro. Hi, Shane.
Yeah, well, we're very excited and honored to have you in, and like he said, we're appreciative that you're able to make it work for us to come in and say
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. And my mom gives you her best.
Thank
From
you.
her hospital bed, she's very, she's happy that we're all doing this.
There was a chance that Matt was not going to show up tonight because his mother, who was very active, broke her ankle. That's got to be so painful.
Yeah.
And so Matt was going to lay low and hang out, but he decided that he'd come and join us. And it's not a quick drive. I mean, I have a sister that lives near you in Deep Haven, and it takes me almost an hour to get there. So thank you for driving all the way up here and hanging with us. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the WeFest. We're going to talk about the origins of the WeFest. I mean, we could talk for days about that, and I could certainly tell you a lot of stories about the WeFest. And
You know a few things about WeFest?
couple. People always ask me about the different entertainers, and I have some great stories. And maybe if I have a little more single barrel tonight, maybe I'll tell you one of my favorites.
I would love some single barrel.
I think we have someone that might bring us. This is Jill, everybody. Thank you, dear. See, Matt, this isn't real scripted, free-flowing, and
That's nice.
All right, so Matt's already got his glass over there with the single barrel, so I'm late to the party with mine. But let's do a little toast to Matt joining us tonight.
Cheers.
Thank you for making it in.
Yeah.
TK.
come on now.
There we go. Go Gadget Arm.
Tastes good.
Yes.
Didn't hit my mute button on that one. They heard it slurping all the way down.
Well, hopefully they've got a drink in their hand, too, when they're watching this.
Yeah.
So, Matt, before we get into the depths, which there are quite a few in 40-something years of WeFest history, tell us, first of all, because you might be a new face for all the local country music fans when it comes to the WeFest Association with
Sure.
the two of you together.
Yep.
So how did you get involved in music before we even get to, like, the WeFest stuff?
Sure. So originally, my first taste of music was in a pretty good band, but I was bad. I played the drums in a garage band, a true garage band, living out in California, post-college. We all had our day jobs, but we, were delusional. And so we would play music in my garage.
Longer hair back then, maybe?
Yeah, longer hair. It was a great gig. There was something called the Black and Gold Club back then. MGD had this. It was kind of short-lived, but a couple of my friends somehow who were in the band got approached one night at a bar by a couple women who said, "Hey, you look like fun guys. Would you be in the Black and Gold Club?" And they didn't know what it was. But it just turned out it was free beer for a year. And so these women would come to our garage and deliver MGD anytime we were practicing or wherever you were.
That sounds terrible.
That was the MGD. That was the Black and Gold Club.
I can see the marketing. I can see the marketing, Gene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
So that was the first taste, and that was a lot of fun. But as I said, I was a very poor drummer, and so that was just a night thing. And then moved back to Minnesota years ago, about 11 years ago. Got involved with a property called Somerset Amphitheater. Now it's called Somerset Amphitheater in Wisconsin. So just across the border from Stillwater.
A lot of folks are probably familiar with it.
Yeah. Big hunting country.
Yeah.
So I didn't know bear hunting was even a thing until I got involved in Somerset. And it's a big thing there. I don't know if you guys bear hunt.
Oh, I know
Yes,
a
we
couple
do.
of bear hunters from Somerset.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we know them in common because we did a country show in Somerset.
Sure.
Randy and I, and
Yes.
quite a long
many
time
moons ago.
Yeah.
So anyways, got involved with this land that was just kind of, it was unknown what was going to happen to it.
Sure.
And
Potential, right?
Yeah, and it had, great infrastructure. The amphitheater itself, we put in a bunch of bathrooms and bars and kind of built it out, and then campgrounds. So it was old farmland, and incorporated this farmland and built campgrounds. And so I've been doing that for 11 years. And then Sioux Pass, we've been involved with the land for years. So WeFest, the land where WeFest is held is called Sioux Pass Ranch,
Right.
in Detroit Lakes. And
that's a family-owned plot, right?
Yep. So my dad got involved probably 35 years ago when I think were trying to figure out, I think WeFest was only about 2 years old, and they were trying to figure out, what was going to happen with the land and all that. And so he got involved, I think about 2 years into the festival. And so, as a little kid.
So that's like 81 or 82
No,
or something?
83 was the first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's probably about 85.
I think your dad got involved in 85.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same time we got Randy involved.
Okay.
Yeah, 85. Jill, how were you in 85? She was -5 in 85, I think.
And Lynn does confirm those facts, just so you know.
Perfect,
Yep.
85.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Sharp.
Oh, I've had these conversations so many times. And it's so funny, Matt. Your dad, I've met him a few times, but he just liked to stay behind the scenes. The most I'd ever hear about your dad was when Randy was complaining.
Well, that makes sense. The landlord-tenant relationship,
Right,
that's
right.
a natural.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we leased a lot of the campgrounds, in the surrounding areas from local farmers and residents.
There's a lot of camp area up there. It's huge.
Yeah.
I have, and I'm sorry I don't know if I have it here today. There's several. We had a helicopter that used to hang out there, and we had these aerial photos. And I can remember when we got to be about 50,000 people.
Yeah.
It was crazy how far out the campgrounds went.
Yeah, I mean, I think like mowing the grass as people were coming in to make more space, and I think it's 400 plus acres, right? And
Wow.
Yep.
They hopefully will get it back to using all the campgrounds. So they've, you can see these beautiful overhead pictures at full
Right.
capacity, And that's the goal, to
Right.
get it back at full capacity.
Right.
Well, as long as we're touching on that topic, it was certainly a topic I was going to bring up, and we may as well hit on it now. Everywhere I go, people would ask me ever since we sold the WeFest, they'd say to me, well, what happened to it? Why this and why that? And why did they raise the prices so much? And why did they fire? What's your take on that, Matt? I mean, they were from New Hampshire, Town Square Media, and they bought it for a lot of money, and then just used all the sponsorship they had
Oh,
from
here you
out
go,
east.
guys.
There's an old one. Look at that.
An old picture of the WeFest.
That
grounds.
is like 84, and we didn't put any grass or stuff down. And you can see the old. We've got other pictures of that stage. See, as far as you can see, on the top of that picture, in the 2000s, 2005, 6, there were campgrounds covering all of that pasture land that you can see in the background. I mean, this is still when it was fairly small. This might be 83.
Yeah, look at that, the old barn stage.
Yeah,
Right?
that was fun. I kind of missed that stage when they tore it down, but we had to come up in the world. That old barn, man, it was all wood, and it was neat. I mean, I can't say anything negative about any of it. It was so. Thanks for bringing that up.
And the stage you guys have now is like the equivalent size of a football field, right? Just huge.
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. It was out at Bonnaroo, if you know that music festival in Manchester, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was out there before, and yeah, it's a monster.
It's not as long as a football field, but it's wider than a football field. And I think it's about the same amount of square feet as a football field.
Sure.
It's definitely the largest stage in the nation. And the seats, you know where those seats came from, the box seats? Randy did a deal with when they tore down Shea Stadium in New York.
Oh, you're kidding.
Those are all the seats from the Shea Stadium.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. So there's another great old picture. That's like, I don't know. I can't
Is
say
that
for
you,
sure.
TK? With a 10-gallon up there in the middle of the platform?
Maybe.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is.
Wow. Got his legs sticking out and everything? That's a great shot.
I'd never noticed that.
And is that so? The gentleman in his jeans with the shirt off, is that the stagehand that has been there
Probably.
for years and years?
He's been there forever. There's so many great stage guys. Boy, the stories we could tell about them and just the history. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I did it for 35 years, and I don't know how many years it's been since I was there. Probably 6, maybe 7.
I feel like 6 is the right number.
My goodness. Like I said, Matt, we could talk about this. I love talking about the shows, and I love telling some of the stories. And it was such a big part of my life.
Well, the MC at a country show is critical. It is the glue, because people, I feel like country festivals versus, if you go to a festival with 6 stages,
Right.
you're going all around all the time and kind of picking your adventure.
Right.
At a country show, you're looking at that main stage and you want to be programmed in.
And we had so many activities between acts. We had so many sponsors, and our sponsorship covered our
Entertainment budget?
our entertainment budget. Thanks.
Yeah.
Our entertainment
Hey, I'm
budget.
paying attention over here.
And so we had like the Minnesota Lottery, and we'd do these contests and giveaways. And so it wasn't just introducing the bands. It was like there was a lot going on. And I think before I go too further into that, again, I'd like your opinion on what did they do? Or is it just obvious what they did?
Well,
Or didn't
you mean
do for that matter, right?
kind of the transition. So from Face to Town Square. Is
Right.
that what you're? Well, I think their model, because they're primarily a radio station company, so I think figured that they had the marketing arm built in already, and then rolled up some of these festivals. And it's probably I think they would tell you that maybe they hadn't figured out the operations quite enough, and
Right.
and so that was probably the biggest thing, and I think changed some of the marketing because they had these stations in certain markets and wanted to market through them. That maybe changed things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it is a challenging business, as you know, and as we were booking our festival through the pandemic, you know, it's hard to throw anyone under the bus that's doing this, you know, that's putting together a festival.
And forgive me, I probably did sound a little negative.
No, you weren't. I'm just saying, you know, as I look around, it's a tough business in general, but right now, you know, it's as everyone's shifting, rescheduling, you know, had all these tours canceled from 2020 and pushing it off to 2021. It's kind of a jigsaw puzzle right now.
Well, when you guys took over the festival, you came out like geniuses. You had no idea the pandemic was coming, but you had no plans of doing a show last year in 2020.
How did you? Because I'm curious to know how you made the decision to step in. Were they, like, not necessarily publicly, but were they advertising that they were interested in selling, or was it something that maybe you and your partnership group decided we're going to approach them?
Well, it was really because of the land, so that landlord relationship, and so. You know, we, when Live Nation bought it from Town Square, you know, they had said, as you just said, Tom, that they were going to take 2020 off. And so they knew that. And then we were having conversations, kind of getting to this year, and, you know, backing up, I guess, to about a year ago, as to what this was all going to look like. And you know, they brought up the idea of working together more. And so, which I think is going to be wonderful because now you've got the landlord who can look very long term.
Right. More security there, right?
Yeah. And you can just, as we think about improvements, and so we're doing a bunch of improvements for 2021 just to the site.
Yes.
And then we're going to do a bunch more in 2022. And it's great when you can do that as the landlord because, you know, you can look out 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is like more risk management played into it and saying, okay, we feel more secure about the vision of these new partners.
Yeah.
And we feel better about reinvesting, I guess, more appropriately.
Yeah.
In the site.
Yeah. I mean, you could think of the saloon, for instance. Mm-hmm. You know, you remember the old ranch house.
That's on the top, on the backside of the bowl?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the red building. And it's got a little stage in there, and then it's got, on the outside of it, it's got the barn stage, which is kind of
handprints, all the concrete handprints.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Such a cool feature.
Yeah. The walk there, kind of the walk of fame.
The walk of fame, yeah.
Yeah. And so that area, for instance.
There's a guy with really small hands. I think his name was Tomcat.
Let's see.
I put my hand there. I was like, oh, someone brought their kid. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Lynn Elizabeth.
I think he wants you to give him
I want you to
something.
grab my phone. There's a picture of that on my phone.
Yes.
A realtor that sold this property we're at right now, she was up there and she put her hands in my... the only reason my hands are in there in the first place is because one of the artists canceled that day or didn't feel like doing it. So they grabbed went down and rung on the ladder and grabbed me.
I don't know. I mean, for a guy that was part of the original founding group and then to host it for 35 years, you'd like to think you had some, you know.
Well, you know, I certainly had a lot of fun, and people think it was all fun. There's really a tremendous amount of work that went along with it. And I'm sure you've heard the expression, Matt, as organized chaos, and it certainly was, but it was amazingly organized. My sister that lives by you in Deep Haven, the stage hands have always got binoculars and are always checking out for pretty girls out there.
That's not part of the operation, right?
I picked up the binoculars, and lo and behold, I hit my sister. I'm like, she was walking around, and she was like, her chin was dragging. She couldn't believe the magnitude of that, and everyone that you talk to, how do you keep that organized? Well, everybody plays their role, and everybody takes it serious. A lot of volunteers, a lot of employees, and everyone knows what they have to do. And
Tom, what does that number? I mean, maybe you know, Matt. What does the number look like? How many people not counting security, but people that work just for the festival to do the stage and all that stuff. How many people are we talking about?
Probably a few hundred minus security. With security, it's probably about 500.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are volunteers. I don't know how Town Square Media handled it, but I remember when I was involved, tons and tons of volunteers.
Mm-hmm. The food bank and the Boys and Girls Club. And that's a big piece of it, as you know, Tom, the local volunteers, that community.
Right.
I mean, that was, I think, such a big help for years.
Absolutely.
And so we've been very fortunate that a number of the people that worked there years ago are now working at the festival again, and then they know everyone locally.
Yeah.
And so they're just picking up the phone.
I'm so happy to hear that, because we're going to have a conversation, or maybe come out to Wayzata and have lunch with you. But I am so, like, for instance, Nason, Vicky and Chris Nason. I mean, these people that know that festival inside and out, I'm happy to hear that you're bringing a lot of them back.
Yeah.
And
because that was an issue, right? Is when the East Coast folks came in, there was less of that local connection.
Absolutely.
Right? Less local partnership, less local folks on site.
Yep.
And that was sort of the rumor mill, is that's why it hurt them attendance-wise as much.
Yeah, I think there was some turnover, certainly. Oh, look at that. Hey.
I know what the caption says. What year was that?
94?
94. The girl, the caption on that said she was the realtor that sold us the property.
Yeah.
Where's the party? I think you're there.
In the VIP?
Yeah.
What do you think for 2021? It's either back to fun in 2021 or get her done in 2021.
Ooh. Did they maintain the jingle?
Well, we're bringing it back.
Well, did the town square do that?
No.
Because we had the pins and it was our theme. The year Ray Charles, I'll tell you a quick story. Ray Charles, God bless him and God rest his soul, was not happy when he was at the WeFest because it was misting out, drizzle and misting, and I'm going to be nice here.
I can see you dancing around.
Yeah,
what you want to
I'm sorry. Anyway, Ray Charles said he didn't perform. He came out and started playing a song, and then he went out, and he wasn't happy because it was drizzling out and the wind was kind of blowing it on stage. And the next year, or that year, I should say, somebody had taken a Ray Charles bumper sticker and or his picture and put it on one of the outhouses, and this isn't as mean as it sounds. It just said, "More places to pee in 93." So he must have been there in 92, and there weren't enough outhouses. And coincidentally, because we built the indoor plumbing, we built that right into the infrastructure, and the next year we had indoor plumbing. Showers, toilets, urinals. It was great. People loved it.
It's a big feat
Oh, man.
at a site like that.
Yes, someone just comes every year and they say, oh, great, they got bathrooms now. You have no idea the expense. And
Oh, I have some idea.
yeah.
The former hammer swinger.
Hey, here we go. I said nothing negative about Ray Charles. He was a great man. It was just a coincidence that somebody did that because the crowd wasn't happy that he didn't perform. And he's the only one. There's 3 acts in all of the years that I did the WeFest that did not perform. Ray Charles was one, and I'll think of the other 2, and it was because of rain, serious rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, put that back up.
So we just had an infographic, and then Matt, this is your lineup this year, right?
Yep.
So
Sure is.
That is an excellent lineup.
I like Back to Fun in 2021.
I
Yeah.
think the back to
Back
fun
to
is
fun
the way
in
to go.
2021.
Okay. All right.
32 below, they're still a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
They're a
guys.
thing.
Wow.
Yeah, as far as local acts, Aaron Grand.
Yep, she's great. Shane Martin's really good.
Yep.
Friends of ours.
More females in the lineup than
Good.
what's kind of yeah, some really really good.
I think that was a whoop coming out of the control room there. I think you got the thumbs up there, Matt.
Yeah,
That was always an issue, Matt.
Girl power.
yeah, absolutely. You know what
Kelly
the world
Pickler.
needs? Female drummers.
Kelly Pickler.
Seriously, Kelly Pickler. Yeah,
Yeah, she's fun.
yeah.
She's nuts. I don't know if you've ever seen her show, but she's what
Energetic.
you see is what you get. She's energetic.
Oh, that's good.
I think she's sitting here right now with us. She'd go, I am a little crazy.
Matt, I don't know how much you can divulge. I don't want you to let all the cats out of the bag, as it were. But what can you tell us about the planning that's gone through 2020 to get to what you guys are aiming for this upcoming summer? Because I think people are going to be excited to hear more about, here's some of the things that we're changing, or maybe some things we're adding, or some things we're taking away. What can they expect when they show up in August?
Yeah. Well, there's some obvious things with COVID that, probably not your question. This is the boring part, right? But
Face diapers when they're out there in the bowl?
just some, some safety measures will be taken just so everyone feels comfortable and is safe. But we have some projects. Is this kind of your question? What projects we're working on?
Yeah.
You mean to the site?
I think that fans felt like the festival changed quite a bit when it changed hands.
Yeah.
And now you guys are coming back in, and obviously having been involved with it for as many years as you have, you recognize what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So what should they expect in
I
the way of
assume you're
projects?
talking about like bringing back local sponsorship. And
Well, just with the show in
Things
general.
like that.
Yeah, that is a big deal. So there's a lot of companies locally that were there for years that we are going to be bringing back. The workforce, there's a lot of people. So, I went for years before. So this is my first year producing the festival, and but I've been going for I don't know how many years, and you just see the same faces. You see the familiar faces when you're walking through the gate, or when you're walking through the campground, or wherever it is.
Yeah.
And I miss that the last few years. I miss
Boy.
seeing those faces.
Who's this guy?
That was a big deal.
That's when we did our documentary. You were in it, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that document.
You must be on a scaffold because you got a
Yeah,
rigging
sweet.
on.
They put us up in the lift. I don't know how high that bucket went, but way up, and just got the sweetest footage. That was years ago. That was probably 2009 or 10. And another Tom, he had a camera, and it was a great show that year. Packed.
Who was there?
Oh, we'd have to look. 2009.
I should know better than to ask
You
you
know,
that because I never remember.
No, it was Tim McGraw. I'll think of all of them, but I remember Tim McGraw was there for sure.
Right
the
behind you, we have the first 25 years
Joe, can you grab that again, please?
of the WeFest posters.
Yeah, we'll bring this out so Matt can see.
And
It's pretty cool.
I don't think there was any put together after that. But this is the first. So I have to reference that once in a while. I have to look because the question comes up quite a bit. And what year did you think you said?
2009.
2009. Well, it's not on there. This,
Not on there?
From 83 to...
Look at that. Did you know? So I looked back at some history as I've been doing. Merle Haggard headlined the first 3 WeFests.
I don't think he did all 3 of them, did he?
Merle Haggard.
Maybe.
Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard, he sure did.
I'll be darned. I know he did at least a couple of them, but he had the funnest.
I got
band.
hung up on George Strait over there in '85. Like, there's my guy, the king of country music.
Yeah.
He is my idol too.
I mean,
Merle
if you
Haggard.
have...
Merle Haggard had. I got to tell you a quick story if you don't.
This is
mind.
through 2007, Tom.
Right.
83 through 2007.
That's a great poster.
It's
Did
a
you put-
poster of all the posters.
Yeah, did you put that together?
No, the WeFest did. I have all of those posters.
Oh, I'd love one of those. That's really cool.
Well, I think we can make that happen. We'll figure it out.
Are you still in contact with Bev up there?
I have not spoken to her this
She'll
year.
have one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah. Either way, Tom, we'll
Yeah.
after the show we'll make it happen. We'll make sure you get one, Matt.
yeah,
Isn't that cool?
that's great.
I probably have a ton of old stuff around here that you'd love to see.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, Merle Haggard, 83, 84, 85, because, if you have a headliner play 1 year and then bring him back, him or her back, within the next 3 years, you get scolded on social media. Like
Right.
you don't repeat someone for.
We did that a lot.
At least 3 years now.
We had the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and sometimes I go on stage and I say, would you like to see him back again next year? And they go rip-roaring crazy, and so why not?
Yeah.
Well, it's like being a disc jockey. Well, you can play the same song twice in a night. If they love it so much, do it.
You know what's funny is seems like the Wisconsin folks, Country Jam and Country Fest, were always playing off of WeFest cue, because you'd look at the lineup for WeFest, which is always announced earlier, and then you'd see what they were doing, because they made the mistake of booking some of the same acts, and their attendance would be lower. I had this conversation with one of the owners at Country Jam, because we played there a few times.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that they made that mistake of not paying closer attention to what WeFest was doing. And so their attendance would be hurt, because people would be like, well, we just saw Blake. We're not going to go pay a bunch of money to see Blake again. They need to have somebody different.
Yeah.
So they caught on within a couple of years that they needed to be paying more attention to who their headliners were. So they weren't doing that. They didn't have that crossover.
Yeah.
It'd be Brad and Carrie over here, and then Tim and Faith over here, and then Keith Urban and Dirks Bentley over at the other one, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They
people
seem to
could-
be imitating us. One of the owners of, and I'm not going to say any names, of Country Jams used to work for us at the WeFest.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
Well, that's not surprising.
Yeah, it is what it is. No
You
big
learn
deal.
from the best.
Doggone it, I was going somewhere and got sidetracked, and I don't remember what I was going to say.
You know what? Another really cool thing
I
about.
was going to talk about Merle Haggard.
Yeah.
These stories, just any artist you name, I'm going to have a story about him. But he had a gal who was his monitor gal. She was his stage producer. She was his stage producer, and she designed a system that the band sat on. It was like a trough, but it was in a horseshoe shape. And this was a big deal back then. And these guys would their chair would be on this level about maybe a foot high. They'd snuggle into their chair. They'd pull their bottle of Jack Daniels or Jim Beam. They'd set it down right by their feet.
Yes,
and
sir.
every one of them had one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they'd plug their instruments right into this trough that they had. And she designed this. And I'm sure if anyone's listening, or if she, especially her, they're probably going to think, how could anybody possibly remember that? But it was a big deal. And because she was a gal, she really got a lot of notoriety from it. And a lot of other bands started doing something similar. But Merle would be in the middle, and these old guys, man, they all looked like, they just were so cool, but they all looked like old hobos. And they just were such talented musicians. And they're just pulling on their bottles and just playing the same old songs they played forever. It was really a treat to see. So
You were talking about projects, Matt, and stuff that
Well,
we have for this year.
yeah. First, I keep going back to that poster because you see these names.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
George Jones, George Strait.
Yeah.
When they're really young and they were like playing down 3-4 rungs down.
There weren't even headliners at that point.
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And then kind of making their way up and then headlining. Remember when Willie played? Must
Willie
have
was
been
a
like
headliner. And,
maybe it was like 2005. It had to have played for like 3 hours.
yeah.
Just went and went and went.
They filmed a movie. I don't know if
You're
it was
not cutting
that
Willie
year.
off.
No.
You just let him go.
Oh yeah. I mean, he could have charged twice as much, for that.
He did so many encores, if it's the same time you're talking about, because he'd been there a few times, where like the last 2 encores, he did like 5 or 6 encores. He'd take the strap of his guitar, and his guitar was like 10 feet behind him, and he'd drag it back out on stage and then pull it up and start playing again. And one year we filmed a movie at the WeFest. It was the Dill Scallion movie, which is a country takeoff on Spinal Tap.
Okay.
And Willie was in it. Henry Winkler was in it.
Oh, wow.
The good-looking guy from 902.
I can't look at him like the Fonz anymore after all
Oh,
his
no.
recent roles. I'm just like, he's like meek and timid now. Like, that's not the guy.
That's not the Fonz.
Right.
Anyway, they had some pretty good actors in it, and the movie was kind of it tanked, but I got a role in it, and I got my name in the credits, so...
And they shot it at WeFest?
Oh, yeah.
I got to look at
The majority of it, I'm sure I've got the video. They sent us Hollywood premiere,
Oh, cool.
one of my credentials.
Yeah.
And we never went, But the Dill Scallon movie, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So you were saying something about a documentary.
Yeah. So, after going there for how many ever years, you just see such fantastic stuff that I wanted to document it. And I had some experience in film and so put a crew together and, for the 3 days just traveled around the site, gathering whatever footage we could and
Interviewing folks and stuff like that?
Yeah, we interviewed, so kind of a fun one, Blake Shelton, who will be there this year. So this is 2009, so I assume he was, a couple under direct support. I don't know what time he was playing that year. But he, he had a number of these interviews, and somehow he mixed up my words to make it sound like I was making fun of Trace Adkins.
That is dangerous.
A monster.
He's a monster human being for sure.
Yeah. And
he's as wide as he is tall.
Oh, yeah. So he's like, "You're calling Trace Adkins a wimp. Is that what you're doing?" I'm like, no.
I am here to tell you, we had Trace Adkins and
this is a great story. You're gonna like this.
We had Trace Adkins and Blake Sheldon one year, and I think it's when Blake still had the long hair. And I was standing talking to Trace, and I'm like, getting a kink in my neck because he's just towering above me. I said, my wife was a stage producer.
And you're not exactly short. You're not 5'3".
No, I was just about 6.
Yeah.
Just about
6'1" with the boots. Give yourself some credit.
So I said, Trace, do you mind if I get a picture with you and Blake? Well, not at all. Not at all. I guess I can't get that low. And it was just so funny. Hey, Blake, get your butt over here before I come over there and knock your block off. So I'm sorry. I wish I had the picture to show you, but who knows what's going to pop into our heads. The picture is actually in that other room. And I am doing a pirouette on my tiptoes, standing between those two. And one's way up here and one's still way up here. Having a ball having you here, Matt. Reminiscing about these old things and seeing what the future holds. I wasn't aware that you actually put together that documentary. I remember the guy that came and interviewed me at my home and took a lot of photos and stuff. And I remember Jeff Krieger.
Did he ask you how much your flower budget was for all the female performers?
Yeah, they were a sponsor. They were a sponsor, so that all worked out well.
Okay, good.
Giving flowers to all the female performers was certainly a fun thing to do.
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, it was fun. Met some people I still keep in touch with. So there's a group called the Blue Sky Cowboys. And I mean, just the most diehard fans. And they set up. So we, in the evenings, would go around the campgrounds. Two of those are the Blue Sky Cowboys.
Look at those.
Is that just by chance? How did you know that? Wow, that's so great.
Who's the guy on the far right?
So he actually, he is not one of them. So these two on the left are Blue Sky Cowboys.
Okay.
The one second from the right is the father of the one on the far left.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's got his Jason Aldean palm
Yeah, so
leaf
it's
hat.
Chris, Kevin. I don't know Chris's dad's name, and I don't know that gentleman, who's got a very nice beard.
He
Kind
does
of
have an impressive
clean beard.
The guy on the far right looks like the third guy and the guitar player in Trick Pony.
He's got stage creds. Look at his pass.
Yeah, so these guys, if you go out there, kind of behind the ranch house, that campground, and
Northwoods.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you know, Shane? Do you know the different campgrounds? Have you?
Yeah.
You kind of know the lay of the land.
Yep.
So if you go down the hill a little bit, they've got this massive site that they put together with these tarps, and they've got 3 bars in there. They've got a pole, a dancing pole.
Yes.
And just throw
An entertainer's pool.
just throw the best party. And so I linked up with these guys before we shot that year, the documentary, and because I was just looking for these different groups to kind of to film, and they're actually going to now do a little side stage. We're kind of working on this right now. You're the first to know.
Uh-oh.
But in the bowl, So there's the main stage.
I knew I'd get something out of you, Matt. I knew it. Proud a little.
So they're curating. So you got the main stage, the barn stage, the ranch house, and then in the bowl, we're trying to do more fun stuff in the bowl itself. You know, create more of an ambiance, create kind of this village. And there's this really cool building near the West Gate that's like this old. It's called the Trading Post.
Right.
And it's just been underutilized. This cool old wood building.
We always had vendors in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the last few years, it's just been shut.
That's
too bad.
Yeah.
I remember when we built that.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And so do like a little stage on the outside, cut a window on the side facing the bowl, and do just a little showcase. During the day, do some showcase local music and create this little village there. So anyways, these guys are kind of helping me with it.
They look like fun.
They're fun.
Those guys look like fun. They look like guys we want to hang out with.
They do look like guys you want to hang out with.
Here's some more fun.
Here's some more fun.
That's lots of fun.
Speaking of fun.
Not surprised the gal in the middle there's got her phone in her hand.
Yeah.
That's the generation now, right? Document
Well, she
everything.
might be taking pictures.
Yeah, she might.
You know,
That's free promotion for Miller Lite. We got to edit that out. Can you blur that? No, just kidding.
Matt, you touched on something that we struggled with for years at the WeFest. In the early days, people got there early, before they had, before we put in the reserve lawn chairs.
Yeah.
Our first guest, if you catch any of that episode with Ryan Pilgrim, he was saying they literally show up the Friday before the week of the festival.
Right.
To make sure they could save the space they wanted to camp in. It was like
We
a
always
week ahead of time.
We always played the William Tell Overture, and they'd come flying in because they'd want to get their seats right behind box seats.
Oh, in the morning when they would run
morning.
out. Yeah.
But where I'm going with this is,
Somebody's got
back
to
in
film
the
that
80s,
for when they trip. And
we had a lot of fun, and there were things to do. And I mean, we started that entertainment at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And then people just, I've said this to 100 people, as big a music festival as the WeFest was and is, it's equally as big a camping event.
yeah.
People relish their camping, the fires, the drinking, eating, cooking, all that they do in the campgrounds. And we couldn't pull them out of the campgrounds to save a soul. We tried more gimmicks and more logic to get people to come out and hang out in the campgrounds, specifically to,
During the
visit
day you're
our
talking
vendors.
about? During the day?
Yeah, we couldn't do it. So it sounds like you might be touching on something because we could never get them out. And we understand, they want to be at their campgrounds, Mm-hmm. I would have conversations with people, and we'd be talking about the WeFest, and I would eventually, throughout the conversation, well, I worked there. And they would say, well, what did you do there? And I would look at them and I would say, I bet you never got out of the campground, did you? And they'd laugh and they'd say, not really.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a great campground chat.
Oh, the campgrounds, man. The campgrounds are such a huge part of the tradition.
Miss Jill, do you know anything about Tippy Cup? How that game is played?
Every once in a while, an entertainer would want to jump on one of the golf carts, and we'd tool around the campgrounds. And the stories and the things that you would see in the campgrounds, a lot of it we can't talk about because we made a pact that we would not use the F-bomb and we wouldn't get too dirty on our...
We're thinking of this podcast in a PG-13
Yeah.
way.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we sort of, not that we had to worry about that with you, but with some of our other guests that we have, like the Elk Whisperer, and be like, hey, man, just got to dial back the F-bombs for one day. Yeah.
Oh,
No, it is fun. And the vast majority of people camp, as you know.
absolutely. And what a great...
I don't know that many people. I mean, it's got to be a tiny percentage of folks that attend the festival that don't actually stay.
Yeah, well, all the resorts and all the hotels and motels, they get booked up a year in advance, and
Right.
People got to go where they got to go because it got to a point where we didn't have anywhere else to put them, even in campgrounds.
Well,
We had overflow campgrounds.
in its day, you had to reserve VIP like when you're leaving the previous year,
Right.
to get where you wanted to sit because that stuff would sell out so fast. And I would imagine hotels are probably the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like, we're going to be back here exactly a year from now. Can we have the same room, et cetera?
Yeah.
we'll give you a deposit, whatever we got to do.
And I think for a lot of people, it's their annual vacation.
Yes.
They'll come in and they'll be there because VIP, you can come in about a week early.
Yeah.
Well, we had it so that they could come in on Monday.
Yeah.
Some people would sneak in on Sunday, but they get in on Monday.
If they know the onstage host.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, not really. They had to pay a little extra fee to come in that early.
Yeah.
And they start hitting it. And by Saturday night, they're still hitting it. And I'm like,
Endurance.
I used to party pretty good, but I don't think I could have kept up with most of those people.
Can I just jump into this for 1 second? One of the things I love most about WeFest is just the lengths that people go to in campsite prep. Mm-hmm. And you know, having gone around, you're just talking about going around when you did your documentary and that kind of thing. It's impressive to see the people that would get a bunch of their friends and they would just get a bunch of sites that they would stack together. And then you'd have yard games and you'd have stages and all these canopies and lights and even sound equiment for some people where they'd throw little after parties and just things like that.
The big
it's
Lake
incredible.
Sally party.
I mean, you're planning it all year. We had one of the last years that we went, the year before you retired, one of our buddies brought his dually out there, and for 2 months he did this whole rigging where the entire bed had this rubber liner in it, and he built this contraption, a copper wire, that spooled under this rubber liner and then came out of the truck and then went over into some different contraption that had a pump on it that went into the fire. So water would get heated by the campfire and then up into this back of his pickup truck, and then he had an aerator in there, so you got a hot tub.
Yeah, a hot tub.
That's heated by the campfire.
Kids, don't do that.
Kids don't do
I mean, this is Josh Peters, Lugnut, a good friend of mine and very smart mechanical guy. I mean, really brilliant with this kind of thing that he created this whole deal. But yeah, I mean, as a disclaimer, Matt's like, don't try this at home. Yeah, but it was so impressive. Okay, who brings a hot tub, like a homemade hot tub, to WeFest?
Wow.
Well, you know.
So it sounds like a smart friend, a good friend to have.
Yeah.
You talk
Brilliant guy.
about realities. I can't believe someone hasn't done a reality show in the campgrounds at a big festival. The
Matt, you might have to
campgrounds
make
are
a
just
call.
Crazy.
Well, this documentary has a good amount of footage that of
Right.
And
In case you were wondering.
yeah, and looking back now, I guess I've shifted gears a little bit now as a producer of the festival. Maybe that I would change my documentary a little bit and not show some of the rowdy stuff, but it was pretty fun to follow.
Well,
and,
don't
film.
apologize for doing it.
Yeah.
The thing that I'll say, and to credit you and the teams that have worked with WeFest all those years, is people could go and they could let their hair down and they could get crazy, and it was always a safe environment. We very rarely saw incidents of anything that needed to be of concern. It was always just people, even in situations where people maybe have a few too many drinks, you always had the friends there to kind of corral them. Okay, let's get them some water and lay them in their sleeping bag or whatever. Yeah. It's just that, like you said, that yearly week they would plan ahead where they could just go and just forget about the world for a weekend, enjoy great country music, and an unbelievably well put together festival.
Thousands and thousands of people.
50,000 people a day. Oh, here we go. Here's an example of that right now.
Thousands and thousands of people. That was their vacation, like Matt alluded to. They took that week off as their vacation. And they get out there.
And it's going to be this again this year, Matt.
They couldn't see the...
Going to be stacking them in there.
I wonder who that is on stage. Look at that great picture.
I think
Look at that box seat area.
That might be FGL, actually. They're playing this year, too. Florida Georgia Line.
Yeah, the production is
nice
incredible.
Guys. Just two nice guys. The big Miller Lite deals on the side. Lynn, if you can find that photo of 1984, what the box seats look like with the fencing around it. The box seats were really small back then.
Yeah.
Real small. Just some folding chairs, and everything was built with wood and no concrete.
Did you also MC? So there was a couple other events for some years in there.
Yeah. We had some really great events there.
Freedom Fest.
We did Freedom Fest, which is a 4th of July festival, and we would pull in thousands of people. It was a 4th of July deal, but it always depended on which day the 4th of July fell on. If it fell on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday or even a Sunday, that people thought. But if it fell on a Wednesday, it was kind of an iffy crowd because they didn't know some people take the weekend before. But it got so huge, Matt, that the city council in Detroit Lakes, they wanted us to stop it. They wanted it because they'd flock in from everywhere. We had great old rock and roll bands. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can remember the Beach Boys being there in America.
So it wasn't a country thing, it was rock.
It was a 4th of July celebration, and we had some
country
rock
people
and roll
like 4th of
acts.
July.
Oh, the city of Detroit Lakes could not handle the influx of people that came to that. And then we did the...
well, yeah, they're just recovering from that, and then WeFest starts, right?
Then we did the Weed Fest,
oh,
10K.
Boy. Oh, boy.
I think we had the Grateful Dead there the first year we did it.
Was that in Colorado?
Oh, it was right there at the Sioux Pass Ranch. And it lasted there's the box seats. Now, the box seats are to the left. And to
What's
the
the deal
right
with
is just general admission.
What's the yellow shirts? What are those about?
You know who those people are?
No.
That's the Moron Tabernacle Choir from the Hog's Breath.
Oh, you're kidding me.
John Anderson.
look
You
at
know what
that
they're doing
Hog's
right
Breath.
there? That's me in the middle. They're doing the swinging routine.
Look at the shorts on that guy on the far left.
Wait, where are you?
I'm right
He's
in the middle.
with the ball cap with the pink
Really?
shirt.
Yeah.
That's a
The
great
beard.
picture.
What shorts are you talking about?
On the far left, the guy in the white shorts.
Is that a guy?
Ah,
Distance
I'm sorry.
runner,
Maybe
I think.
your angle is different than mine.
Yeah, no, I see him with the glasses.
those are like 50s basketball
Well, you know,
shorts.
it's
Those are pretty short shorts.
83 or 84, but we had the whole crew up forever from the Hog's Breath. And every time John Anderson came on stage, I mean, he loved the WeFest more than any show he ever did because I would get that whole crowd doing it's a routine that we used to do in the clubs to swing in.
Yeah.
Clap our hands and just to swing in. And it was funny, and some people made it X-rated.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Hog's Breath. You have to expect that, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, my goodness. Those are great old photos.
So that was 84, you think?
I think that one was 84.
There's John Anderson.
John Anderson, Hanky
Williams
Panky.
Jr. Yeah.
Big Steve.
Tom,
Yeah.
your badge said alive in 85 for that photo.
Oh, it was. Oh, so that was 85. You know that sweet voice that you all keep hearing once in a while? That's my wife, Matt. And I know you met her.
Lynn.
Today's her birthday.
She's 30.
Should we sing a
30
song?
years old. Lynn, why don't you come on out? You know, it's only appropriate that she comes out and says hello because for 20 years, Lynn was the stage producer of that whole massive event. And I got to tell you, the acts, even the hardcore grizzly acts at, Road Warriors, they loved her because she wasn't like any stage producer they'd ever met. Everyone's cracking the whip, and she was so kind and obliging. And I'm telling you, the guys that they look at it, she's a stage producer. I say, yeah, isn't she sweet?
Kill him with kindness.
Yes, she is, and she's
going to come
married.
into the picture.
Here she is. Here's Lynn.
This is my beautiful bride,
Happy
Lynn
birthday.
Kitty.
Can you move that mic over between the two of you? Just swing it over your shoulder there, Tom.
There you go. Hi, honey.
Hello.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Are we singing?
No.
Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lynn. Happy birthday to you.
Wow.
We're getting good at this because everybody in my family and her family that has a birthday, she's a great singer.
We sing to each other.
We sing happy birthday. We call them up and start singing, belting it out. Lynn used to sing the national anthem at the WeFest.
Right on.
I did.
Yeah. And we can't share that same story because if you want to hear the story about her and the Oak Ridge Boys and the national anthem,
You got to
you'll
watch the
have to
first
watch
episode.
The first
really?
episode? Was it the first episode?
First one with Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, we had a fun deal.
Did they sing it with you?
Or was it Heidi? It was the second episode with Heidi.
Second episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a good experience.
Had fun, learned a lot. Is that what we're
Had
supposed to
fun.
say? That is awesome.
Well, I can't.
It was a lesson in humility, maybe? I don't know.
Lynn's, we have pictures of her singing the national anthem.
I forgot the words.
She was right in the
was
middle of it.
okay.
We had the
I
color
smiled.
guard out there. I'm back there with my hat on, and she all of a sudden just stops. And I realize she's having a brain fart, and I'm back there going, by the dawn's early light. And she's just starting to giggle now. Now the whole crowd's laughing. And all of a sudden she kicks back in and she finishes the song. And I'm telling you, I never heard anybody get such a huge response and round of applause for singing the national anthem. So that night, Oak Ridge Boys are headlining, and Joe Bonzo, which is kind of the lead singer, they're singing Elvira. And right in the middle of Elvira, he stops singing. And the band is looking at him, and the crowd's looking at him like...
He couldn't have forgot the words.
There's no way. And he's like, I just wanted to make that gal that sang the national anthem feel a little better.
That's really cool.
Isn't that cool?
Is that
That's
ever
really cool.
I mean, what a professional he was.
He was a professional.
Look at there.
Yeah.
Good for you for finishing it, though.
Who's that?
For staying on and doing it.
It's funny, I sang the national anthem in high school. I mean, almost
Yeah.
my
Whoa,
whole
whoa,
life.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I can't even hear you.
And for me to I just froze for
Yeah.
a second, and it was fun and funny, and like I said, a lesson in humility. It was good.
Yeah.
Good
That's
for
funny.
me, and the crowd responded well. So that
Well,
was
happens to everyone.
That was my last year singing the national anthem as well, but that's okay. Then I took over the doing stage producer. So
How many years were you the stage producer?
I don't
I
know,
would always
like
say 20, but it might have been a little bit less, somewhere.
I think it was around 20. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly remember seeing you buzzing around with
Yeah.
your headset on.
Yeah.
It was fun because I had an earpiece and she had access to it. And all of a sudden, she
Danger.
went, and I'm talking, and I just start to laugh. And no one knows what I'm laughing about. But she never quite, she's a perfectionist. And when she does something, she does it as well as it can be done. I don't know if I should probably get closer.
Yeah, you're good there. Yep.
And like, for instance, she's a school teacher now. She's won 2 Governor's Award, Teacher of the Year in her district. She's won all these different awards. I mean, whenever she does anything, she does it as well as it can be done, and that's just her nature.
Okay.
And
Good.
these guys, these hardcore.
He might be trying to get a date with you. I don't
know, right?
Pouring on the
It is
charm.
her birthday.
pouring
It
on
is
the
her
charm.
birthday.
It is her birthday.
I think that we should go back to talking about all the wonderful things that are happening this year.
Wait, I didn't get to share a fun Lynn story
Oh.
yet. Is that okay, Matt? Come
Yeah,
on.
man. I want to hear it.
So one of the years that we were there, Tom was generous enough to give Emily and I backstage passes. It was actually the summer that we got married. And so we had these backstage passes, and we're hanging out and stuff. And one of my idols growing up was Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
And Kenny was playing the festival that year. So I was so excited to be there and have Kenny play. And the fact that we were getting this extra perk of being able to go backstage and stuff was a lot of fun. Well, my wife and I, my lovely wife, who's not here for me to stroke her ego. But anyway, so we're walking sort of by the side stage, and Lynn sees us. And I'm not paying attention to what the lineup is. She knows what the lineup is, and she must have had some kind of conversation with Tom because I'd been glowing about Kenny forever. And she's waving at us. She's got her headset on and her clipboard and all that. She's waving us over, and we're like, okay. So we go over there. She's like, come up here. So she brings us up on the side stage, and we're standing essentially where the monitor board is, right at the side of the stage. And I'm, 20 feet from center stage. And the next act is Kenny Rogers. And he comes out, and they set a stool out for him, and he sat there on that stool and did his whole set from the stool, and my jaw was on the floor. Probably, and I'm going to share this, the public's going to know now, but minimum 2 times I got teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Just listening to him sing and all that, I was like...
It's okay for men to cry.
Yeah.
I was like, someone can push me down the stairs now. I don't need to live anymore. Like, I've done it all now. That's it. Check it off,
Yeah.
It's just the most unbelievable thing. So I'm grateful that you did that.
Aw.
I've never forgotten it. Emily's never forgotten it. And what
That's
an awesome experience it
That's
was. So.
That's really what it was all about for Tom and I, is just making those experiences for friends and family. Just because
And he's not with us anymore,
because we got to work there, and it was exciting. It was exciting work, but it was work to do. You had to get things done, and if you could make someone's moment, their day, their whatever, that was really
The
important.
culmination of that set was him walking off stage and Tom coming out to make announcements and that kind of thing. And Kenny walks right over to him and just wraps the arms around him. They embrace and give each other a big hug. And I was like, he knows Kenny Rogers. Like, he didn't go to him and extend his hand. Kenny walked right to Tom and wrapped his arms around him. I was like, you're the coolest person I ever met.
Lady.
Like, he must be Burt Reynolds or something.
That's neat. That's neat.
Your knight in shining armor.
Right, exactly.
His voice.
Oh,
Yes.
He was such a cool guy.
yeah.
My goodness.
All right, back to business, boys.
All right.
All right, why don't you two talk for a minute?
You know-
I have to whisper something into my wifey's ear.
Sure.
Sounds good. Let's talk.
So, Matt, what are you doing in the, ticket arrangement all staying the same? They just go to the website. They can book their tickets.
Yeah, all same. WeFest.com.
Okay.
There's one big change to the GA area,
Okay.
which is pretty cool. So I think for years, a lot of people in GA standing back there felt like they couldn't get close enough to the stage.
Yes.
And so we've now...
It's quite a ways back to where that fencing is.
Yeah, so we've opened up a new section so they can get 200 feet closer.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's an important part of this festival. Or what we're doing is to kind of provide a all-around experience for everyone, and so that was a big missing piece was that access, getting closer to the stage.
Can you explain that again, Matt? I was talking to Lynn.
Yeah.
Really-
So the east side of the of if you're looking at the
By the
stage,
walkway down there.
yeah, kind of
Yeah,
close to the
yeah.
walkway. If
Like
you remember
reserve
the
lawn chair or whatever that is.
there's the two lawn chair sides.
Yeah.
And so the center mix, if you're here, there's the east lawn chair side, the west.
Yep.
The east lawn chair side is now going to be GA, so you can get
Good.
200 feet closer.
Good.
And we're going to
That's
do
a big deal.
more lawn chair on the west side.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah.
When we instituted the reserve lawn chair, it's obviously everything's about making money so you can pay for the acts and so on and so forth. But it really put a damper on the general admission. They got pushed back so far. We would play the William Tell Overture and no one would rush in because and
You're like, is that Keith Urban, that little ant up there?
if I think if it were my show and I was just starting up again, this is certainly stuff we'll talk about in the future, but I would eliminate all of the lawn chairs. And there might be people listening saying, no, don't you dare do that. But it was the energy level from the general admission people to be able to be right at the back of the box seat area. I would go out there and I would do giveaways to the general admission, bring the mic out and interview people. And they had a lot of energy, and boy, a lot of the energy just went away because of that.
Yeah.
And, and at the same time, I understand you have to make money doing it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I think that this way...
but that's a good start.
Yeah, so the west side will still be plenty of lawn chairs, and that's the Lake Sally side.
Right.
And so I think more people from Lake Sally are in the lawn chairs, more people from Viking, the east side.
Viking, Blue Ox, all that.
Yeah, they're kind of rushing in.
Yeah.
And so from that side, they can rush in and get a lot closer to the stage.
What's the ground that's outside of Viking, the further out that east side?
Eagle?
And then there's
Hilltop.
Hilltop. Yeah, Hilltop's like the furthest away, right?
No,
Hilltop.
Geographically.
there was something something Oatfield.
Well, Oatfield is if you're
But you can cut right through.
and if you're on the stage, Oatfield is like
Viking.
center right.
Yeah.
Hilltop. So if you're looking off from the stage, you go straight 90
Right.
degree, and that's kind of where Viking, Eagle, Hilltop are.
Right.
And so Hilltop has been the one, sadly, last couple of years, haven't had to use it much,
Yeah.
but that's our goal to expand all the way back there.
Woodchuck.
That's now for helicopter rides.
Oh, nice.
You go grab the heli there and fly.
Are you going to do a helicopter?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
We did that right in the early 80s. We started out with a helicopter,
Yeah.
which reminds me of a Hank Williams Jr. story.
Oh.
I was thinking of Woodchuck Campground. It was
Oh, yeah.
kind of an overflow deal.
Yep.
Hank Williams Jr. gets out of the helicopter. We had a guy named Pablo who used to fly that helicopter, a friend of ours from South America, and he went and picked up Hank Jr. at the airport in Fargo and brought. We had a landing pad over by Highway 59 on the west side. Landed. Hank Jr. jumps out of that helicopter, runs down into the ditch, up to Highway 59, and jumps into a highway patrol car. And this guy's like, "What in the world are you doing?" He was real paranoid. I don't know what he was doing that day, but
Funny.
Hank used to like to break all the rules. And he jumped in and he says, "Take me backstage. I'm Hank Williams Jr. Take me back." So he did. And he got out of there and he kicked the door closed. And he's just a ornery son of a gun.
Funny.
Doing the craziest stuff. And I'll never forget that show. Tearing off his shirt, jumping on his piano, shooting his muzzleloader. And he grabbed his keyboard player. He grabbed him by the shirt and threw him off the stool and he sat down. And he's nuts.
Funny. I went up in a two-door heli in Somerset. It was during a festival, a rock festival, and went up with a photographer. And I wanted to make sure he was comfortable. It was one of those two doors, 3-seater, and the photographer's like, "Oh yeah, no problem. We, I used to tour with Metallica. I'd be hanging off bridges, getting these shots." And I'm like, "All right." And we went up, and he was white as a ghost. Like this thing, because have you ever been in just a little two-door helicopter?
No.
They're shaky. They're very, very shaky, and yeah, he was not having it. He got his footage. Like it all worked out.
When you were in Somerset, you were working with a couple of the Monpettit cousins?
Well, no. So they used to do stuff there.
Yeah, we did something with them. We had Alan Jackson, Restless Heart, Eddie Rabbit.
Okay.
It wasn't the Float Ride Park, but it was another. So and one of those guys is a big bear hunter.
Yeah.
And we actually used to bear hunt together up in northern Wisconsin.
Okay.
Where we jumping back to one of our first conversations. What was the park called that you were at, the piece of property?
Well, yeah, so it was Float Right. It was like tubing right across the way. And then up the road a little way is River's Edge.
River's Edge, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but our venue is called Somerset Amphitheater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's the bear hunting. I learned stories quickly. I saw this movie, kind of this home movie of this boy shooting his first bear out of a tree. And the part I don't get is I think they would bait it with jelly donuts.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Frosting, syrup. Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't seem like much sport to me.
Excuse me.
Okay.
You guys keep talking.
You take your headset off there, TK. So you're saying with the bears?
Well, yeah, they'd throw jelly donuts in the woods, I think, so then the bears would kind of know where to go, and then they'd come back and chase it up a tree.
Yeah, so all species sometimes are legal for baiting and sometimes not legal for baiting.
Yeah.
And so, like Minnesota, you can bait bear, but you can't bait deer.
Okay.
Or like you go across the border to Wisconsin, it's legal to bait deer. You can put a pile of corn down; it's totally fine.
So that to me didn't seem that difficult. Like I could see when you go out with a bow and you're shooting kind of the hunt of it, kind of the sport of it.
Yes.
Speaking from experience, and I've had a lot of it, in my opinion, most bear hunters do harvest them with a bow, especially if you're using bait because you're only shooting them at 15 yards. Some people prefer to use a firearm.
Okay.
And in Wisconsin, they can use hounds, dogs, and a lot of them do. It's a big deal in Wisconsin. For about 5 years, I was the vice president of the North American Bear Foundation. So we had benefits and we had banquets in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and other places around the United States. And that's a big deal in Wisconsin. So forgive me if I just interrupted, but I know how crazy they're.
Well, they've got these trucks that they take the bed out, and then they stack these little steel cages for the hounds, and then the truck, the hood, has got fabric on it with the chain. That I had never seen anything. It looked like Mad Max.
It's real red, isn't it? Man, you swear those guys, God bless them. You'd swear you're in the hills of Tennessee. They're a rare breed, them guys. Those the hound guys in Wisconsin. I know a lot of them, boy, I tell you.
I think a rule should be instituted. So I see these bears here.
Yeah.
They have to stuff it in the position that it died.
That's a pretty cool rule. That's a good idea.
Just an idea.
I like it.
What was the rule?
You got to stuff the bear in the position in which it died.
Oh.
So if it was, like he said, up in a tree, or if it was standing or laying down or whatever.
All right. Forgive me for jumping around here, but I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And since we were on the topic, Shane, I know what a huge fan you are of Kenny Rogers, and I want you to know that I've been planning on giving this to you. Kenny Rogers signed this, and he gave it to me, and his signature is right there alongside of his logo, and this is now yours.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, I think I have an autographed photo of him as well, and there he is. And
That's the most amazing thing anyone's ever given me. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And
That's saying a lot. He's got 3 kids.
I have 4 kids.
He's got 4 kids.
We have 4 kids.
yeah, if I
He's
could
got
find
7
that
kids.
autographed Kenny Rogers photo, I'll get you that too, and you can make a little box, a little shadow box, and put them in there.
That's incredible. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I love it. Thank you.
I knew you'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, we do need to be respectful of Matt's time because he's got places to be and people to see and all that stuff. So we do got to
Matt, I got to
get
tell
to
you,
break.
I could sit here for hours just talking with you
Drinking whiskey.
and drinking whiskey, sipping whiskey.
Yeah.
A guy from my church said, "What are you doing drinking booze?" I said, "We're not drinking booze." I said, "We're just sipping on whiskey.
Yeah. Right.
It's good whiskey, sipping whiskey."
So, Matt, WeFest.com for folks.
Yes.
And I assume all types of tickets are available to VIP everything now?
Yeah. Everything's available. WeFest.com.
Okay, wonderful.
Matt, before we cut you loose, and I know you've got a plane to catch in the morning, is there anything that you want to add to this conversation, and maybe something you want to tell the folks about?
Without an F-bomb?
You know what I was just thinking about when Lynn and you were talking about Kenny Rogers?
Yeah.
I was thinking about a very memorable moment with, you remember Joey and Rory?
Oh,
Yeah. Yes,
no,
of course. That whole story
I might
is...
start crying.
Yeah, that's a really sad story.
Yeah, and it was right after we actually had interviewed you, Tom, and
Right.
And then we got a number of their songs, and my wife and I will often go back and look at that. But that, for whatever reason I'm telling you now, but it was one of my more memorable WeFest experiences, being able to hang out with them for the day.
Those two people are. There's not enough superlatives for me to express how much I love those two people. They came. They knew that Lynn was a stage producer and I was a stage host, and they knew we were married, and that was so cool to them. They sought us out, and we spent just a bunch of time with them backstage, just talking.
Yeah.
And they were so kind, gentle, and caring. Two of the greatest Christians I've ever known.
Yeah.
I mean, and as you may or may not know, Joey died here probably 2 years now.
Oh, it's longer than that, isn't it?
Could be.
I think it's been quite a bit now.
Yeah, maybe a little longer, and they shared a
There
lot.
There they are.
on,
Joey and Rory.
Oh,
And hers was it brain specific cancer?
I think it was brain, and they shared a lot of it online. I don't
did.
use Facebook, but my wife kind of followed it, passionately.
that woman, like my wife, as beautiful as she is outside, she was just as beautiful inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But
Well,
the
thanks.
love that he had for her.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh man.
That's
Yep.
for sure.
And they were almost, they had that big hit. And they were, because
Cheater.
They were always embarrassed to play it because it was just a fun thing they put together, and everyone knows them, like the Bill Gaither gospel. They were regulars with Bill Gaither and
Yeah, they're devout Christians.
devout Christians, and they were almost embarrassed to play that song.
Yeah.
They always made an excuse for it. It was a great song. Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
That's right.
Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a real honor to get to spend some time with you and talk about this big project you've got going.
Thank you.
I hope that we can have you back again down the road.
Sounds good.
Talk maybe,
maybe
after the festival, talk a bit more about how things went and what the plans are for 2022.
Yeah.
Shane, maybe we'll get a camera up there and do some video of the show and do it on another one of our podcasts and invite the folks to see some of the action up at the WeFest.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That would be
cool.
fun. Well, folks, stick around because coming up right after the break, we are actually going to continue the WeFest conversation. Matt's got to go, unfortunately, so he will have his whiskey and go. But Tom, I'm going to go back into the annals of your brain and get into the WeFest origin story, talking about its foundation and how it went from where it was to the monster that now Matt is running.
I was going to bring it up when you were here, Matt, and I know we got to cut you loose, but I was going to talk about the very origins of the WeFest. We weren't going to do the WeFest in Detroit Lakes.
Save it for after the break, Tom.
I'll tell you that
River
story.
Falls, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you knew that.
Stick
Third
around,
tidbit.
folks, right after the break. Boots and Backstraps is proudly brought to you by Homes by Shane. Making your move with the Homes by Shane team means an unparalleled customer service experience. That level of service is the foundation of this RE/MAX Results referral-based business. Our driven team of experts communicate with their clients every step of the way, ensuring a memorable experience from the first conversation through your closing day. Go to homesbyshane.com for more information. Let's get you home. If you would like to sponsor the Boots and Backstraps podcast, or you have an interest in joining our team, send us an email to bootsandbackstrapspodcast@gmail.com. Welcome back to Boots and Backstraps. TK.
Hey.
Welcome back, sir.
Man, that was a fun interview with Matt.
Yeah, it was.
And forgive me if I don't know. I like sharing some of those stories.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to dominate and take away from our guest. He's a great guy. And during the break, folks, we were talking about what a great guy Matt is. Just
right.
nice, kind, and
obviously a very bright guy.
Very bright and even-tempered. I don't know how that's going to work at the WeFest because everyone that worked there and owned it was crazy.
Well, we could see from all the photos that he clearly knows what he's getting himself into because he's been there a few times.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Now, you said his family's owned that ranch since 85?
I think it was 85 that his dad, Ray Mithun, bought the ranch. And
that's where the festival's held.
And that's where it's held, yeah. And I couldn't quite, we could have asked Matt. He owns probably the VIP campgrounds behind the stage, the Northwoods, and maybe even Lake Sally. But a lot of the other campgrounds we always rented out from the local farmers and the landowners that were up there.
Yeah.
And as I understand, that hasn't happened now for several years because the festival got so small. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm confident. I'm confident that Matt and Live Nation are going to take that to where it used to be.
Well, I know he was very timid about talking about how the festival sort of took a dip in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
After the sale and what they want to do, and it's okay. He's trying to be respectful and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was
but
trying
the
to
good
be
news
respectful
is
too.
We don't have to be. This is our podcast. Yeah. We can be more real, I think, with our audience because they want us to be more real. So the truth of the matter is when the last year you did the festival, it was 50,000+ people a day.
60,000.
In the last year that the festival was held, which was 2019, it was barely 15,000.
Right. And when our first year in 1983, I think we had, I want to say the number jumps out at me as 25,000. Maybe it's 20,000. Maybe it was closer to 20,000 people, but that was huge for us. I mean, we had Alabama.
That's huge for anybody in 1983.
Yeah, and we owe Alabama so much of our success because they took a flyer on us. I mean, we were just a bunch of guys that didn't know what we were doing, and we kind of knew what we were doing. But
well, so just to kind of bring the audience back in here, what we teased before the break was that we were going to get into sort of the WeFest origin story and talking about how this concept of the WeFest came to life and how it's grown over the years and evolved and maybe some of the changes and fun stories that you have to share getting to where it was when you left 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, it started, as everyone knows, in 1983. But you know what spurred it? Jeff Krieger, Binky, had Binky Productions in the Twin Cities here. And I think we have a picture of Jeff and I on stage that we maybe have already shown already, but maybe not.
Sure.
Anyway, Jeff, do you remember the US Festival?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was just watching some footage of it on television before we came out here to do the podcast. Mm-hmm. And, well, that was a huge deal. That was a worldwide deal. And Jeff's like, he's an ambitious young man, and he's like, I got to do something like that. Well, country music was just really killing it at the time. Alabama, you know, the early 80s, 1980, Alabama came on the scene, and they rocked it, man. They broke some of the Beatles records. These guys were huge, and I said, you know, I told Jeff, I said, if we can get Alabama up there.
But I think we're getting ahead of it a little bit.
Okay.
How did you even come up with the idea of, let's do a country music festival on this raw piece of dirt with this tiny red barn? Like, how did we get to
I'll
that?
go back to that part of the story.
Yeah, because I don't even know
Jeff wanted
that.
to do a show.
Okay.
And
he said, Tom, let's do a show up north.
I was putting a bid on a club out in the country in River Falls, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I was going to the township council at the time talking about the club that I wanted to build, and Jeff at the same time was perking them for doing the WeFest in River Falls in the township,
yes,
out in the country, right down the road from where the club was. So we working together on that, they didn't want nothing to do with it. The city, not the city of River Falls, the township of River Falls, did not want a big festival in their backyard. And quite frankly, when you look back, you know, God was looking after us, and they really didn't have, we had no infrastructure. We were going to start on a bare piece of dirt. The town of River Falls only had 2 motels at the time, small motels. And, you know, it may have only been one. There were no resorts.
No lodging at all.
Everyone would have had to have camped. So ultimately, as it turns out, we had our second choice was Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. There was already a stage built there. They had tried a little music show the year before in 1982. Wasn't successful. And here we are. I'll never forget the first time I went to Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. It was on the 4th of July in 1982. It might have been 81, but I think it was 82. And I'm like, we're driving past the lake, Detroit Lake, and I thought it was transported to Fort Lauderdale. It was the 4th of July, and my friend and one of the owners, Terry McCloskey, had a beautiful, he and his girlfriend had a beautiful cabin up there just west of Detroit Lakes. So we're up there just to celebrate the 4th of July, and I said, what is going on here? College students from all over the country would go to Detroit Lakes, Minnesota for the 4th of July. And I'm like, really? And then they showed me a Playboy magazine. Every year they would list the top 10 places in America to go for the 4th of July. And here, every year, Detroit Lakes was number 2. Coney Island was evidently number 1.
Okay.
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Well, there's the colleges up in Fargo-Moorhead. You know, there's Bemidji. There's all these colleges in the area. And they just unloaded. There were thousands of people. And I was like, wow. And so Terry said, well, I think we're going to maybe try and do the WeFest up here. And I said, I like that idea.
Where did the name WeFest come from then in that conversation?
In the interview, in the documentary that we were talking about, Terry at one time told me, and I don't know if he's just pulling my leg, but I thought it was because of worldwide entertainment. And Jeff, after the documentary came out, he says, where did you get that? I said, McCloskey told me that. He said, that's not how we got the name. Jeff coined the name WeFest because of the US Fest, the US Festival that was going on. So they were doing the US Festival, we were doing the We Festival.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's the story.
So then you guys made the decision you're going to give it a go in Detroit Lakes.
Right.
And it's you and Jeff and Terry at that point?
It was Jeff Krieger, the president, founder. Terry McCloskey, our attorney, owner. someone might kick me for saying this, but Joe Szynski, does that name ring a bell? Joe Szynski, the original mattress factory?
Yes.
He was there. He was part owner in the beginning.
Okay.
And we won't say what happened after that. And then, she'll kill me for drawing a blank on her name.
I was just going to say.
Lynn Elizabeth?
Cheryl
Sparks.
Yeah, Cheryl Sparks, yeah.
And that was it. And myself. You know, this gives me a great opportunity to correct something. Last week, our guest referred to me as one of the owners, and I am not, never was an owner. One of the promoters, one of the founders, worked hard for 35 years, but I
did not have an ownership
I was
stage.
never an owner, no.
Okay.
And we had just built in '83 a club in River Falls, Wisconsin, so I had no money to invest in the WeFest.
You did have talent, as it turns out, because they hired you and you worked the stage. You were the on-stage host for 35 years.
You think I had talent?
Yes, of course.
Well, I appreciate that. I think I was just up there winging it.
Well, that's what gives you talent. You know, the mark of a good MC is not a guy that can go up there and read a script. It's someone that can go up and read the crowd, go with the flow, and be entertaining despite all the different changes and things that are happening when you're putting on a show.
Say, Lynn, can you go into my phone? And there's Jeff. I had a bow tie on. I don't ever remember wearing a bow tie. Wow. Jeff was fun. I just talked to Jeff today.
Do you think you could hold that microphone any lower? I'm not thinking you can. That might be the very bottom of it.
Looks like it.
You see the way people hold microphones now where they're strangling.
Yeah, and they put their hand up
the
here.
Head on the head on that thing.
The sound booth goes crazy when they do that.
Yeah.
In my phone, Lenny, what was it? What were we talking about? What did I wanted you to find? What were we just talking about?
You were going to
Jeff
tell her
again.
what to look for, and then she found these pictures for you.
I just spoke
Cheryl
to Jeff.
Sparks we were talking about.
Something else, but that's just the way it goes. Jeffrey wants to come on the show. So
Well,
we
I'd
have
love
the
to
new
have him.
owner, and then we'll have the original owner on the show, and we'll talk more WeFest again. It'll be fun. He's a character, and he's got a new line. He'll talk about his new product now that he's put a franchise on.
All right, so TK,
Yes, sir.
you got your group of people, and they throw some capital in. They got you in there as a consultant and co-founder and that kind of thing, and you decide, we're going to do the WeFest, and it's going to be in Detroit Lakes.
Yeah.
What's next? It's entertainment, right?
Yeah, and I'll go back. I'll take you back a step.
Okay.
One of the reasons I was doing it is because of the Rowdy Cowboy Show.
Right.
You know, I had a very successful show in the Twin Cities, the Tomcat Rowdy Cowboy Show at the Hog's Breath and Alligators and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, no one, Jeff.
Many a limes were stuffed into pants.
You're going to have to figure out that one on your own.
Yeah, we'll tell that story at a different show.
We're stuffed in a pan. Well, nobody, Jeff, Terry, Cheryl, Joe, none of them know anything about country music. And that was my forte. I mean,
Right.
So that's one of the reasons they wanted me involved, is because of my knowledge of country music, and I knew who we should get and who we shouldn't get. And so that was one of the reasons I was part of the WeFest at the beginning. So, yeah, Detroit Lakes. And
You got to start booking bands. So how did that conversation come around?
I have a fun story, but
Here's
we
an
would
old
put our
movie
heads
idea.
together. That's Terry McCloskey. And Terry was our attorney, and he was a dear friend of ours, both Lynn and myself. And he's passed away, I want to say a good 10 years ago. Boy, maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
He was,
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
there are not words to explain how crazy he was.
Yeah?
Oh, he was an attorney, but man, that man was nuts. Anyway, we won't go there. Nuts in a good way.
He had some fun.
He had more than his fair share of fun. So we were talking about where we went from.
Like you're going to make decisions about who your acts are going to be for the first show.
Right, and we'd put our heads together, and they'd, well, how about this act? And I'd say no, because I knew who was hot and who wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I was playing their music.
Yes.
Twice a week, and
Yes.
I was really cued in. So it was nice to have that knowledge of who was hot, because otherwise you kind of hit and miss. So I knew who was hot and who wasn't, and so we rolled with it until 1990. The WeFest prior to that was nominated for a CMA award, and we were in the same category as Country Fest Nashville, the big show they put on in Nashville. I don't think it was called Country Fest, but it was the week of the CMAs. The Nashville Chamber of Commerce puts on the CMA Awards, and they also put on that country music festival.
That seems fair.
So we weren't going to win that award, but it was really nice to be nominated.
Yeah.
And so we would go down to Nashville every year and showcase bands, see who's coming out. And I always had a jump on that because of the music I was playing. One year, 1990, we showcased some bands, and here's Garth Brooks. And I was like, I love Garth Brooks. He was really, had one song out. I said, Jeff, I play that song all the time. Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old. Still one of my all-time favorite country songs.
Which is not a high-energy song.
No, it was a great song.
Yeah.
Man, you haven't heard great country cowboy music like that. Talking about Chris Ledoux. And
Yep. He referenced Chris Ledoux in a few of his songs.
yeah. And
I guess they were pretty
we
good
should
friends.
get him. Jeff didn't care for him. Jeff, if you're watching us, I don't need to say anything. Anyway, we passed on Garth Brooks. So in 1991, we couldn't afford Garth Brooks.
Right.
He was booked solid, and the rest was history. We never had Garth Brooks. Two acts that we never had, and I get asked these questions all the time. We never had Garth Brooks, and we never had Shania Twain.
You never had Shania Twain?
No, she didn't like doing festivals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, maybe early in her career she did, but the timing was never right, and we never got her.
So in '83, I know you mentioned earlier that you were really pressing the group to get Alabama.
Yeah.
Because you felt like it was going to just rocket the festival into its popularity.
And I don't think I had to press them too hard because, no one lived under a rock. Alabama was huge, and I know Jeff fought long and hard to get Alabama, and to his credit, he got them. I don't know, man. They're the biggest thing, breaking Beatles records, and he got Alabama, to his credit, and Alabama put us over the top. Even though there wasn't any money to be made in '83, we were on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point, the late '80s, all through the '90s, the 2000s, where every country entertainer on the planet, their top priority was to play the WeFest.
Yeah.
Because we were so professional. They knew they were going to get paid. They knew they were going to play in front of the largest crowd that they've ever played in front of.
Right.
Whether they were a veteran or a rookie.
50,000, 60,000 people.
Yeah, 50,000, 60,000 people. We figured
That's like
that,
a football stadium, TK.
Yeah, it was huge. It was fun looking out at that vast sea of humanity and everyone just in the same boat.
A few of them
fun.
sober.
Oh, yeah.
Just 2 or 3.
Maybe, yeah, we sold a lot of beer. Excuse me. There were a lot of brain cells lost up at the Sioux Pass Ranch, that's for sure. I guess I was saying in the late 80s, all of the 90s, and into the 2000s, certainly through the 2000s, we were the largest country music festival in the world.
Yeah.
And, people might look sideways. Yeah, are you sure about that? There's this. And there's a lot of big shows now, especially in Nashville. And, boy, I think the Jamboree in the Hills with Alabama is still huge. I could be wrong. The country jams, the country fests. But no one was putting in more than 60,000 people a day. And we were. And it was cool. It was cool to be a part of that. It was cool to be able to say that we were the biggest.
You helped create that.
Well, yeah. That was cool to think, and I don't know that I ever said that to anybody.
It must have been interesting to watch it evolve from what you said earlier at the 20,000 or so, the first festival, to how quickly
great.
it must have gotten to that 50 or 60. Because, like you said, once you're on the map, and you're the hot ticket, then it doesn't take long for those ticket sales to just take off.
If I could get Jill to look at that poster, I don't know if it was 85 or 84. I think 84 might have been. It might have been 84. We did a 5-day show. We had mud rallies, and we had the mud for it too. It rained, and people were sliding in the mud. We did a 5-day show, and we started the bands.
Country Fest does that now, the one that's in Cadott.
There's a good shot.
Jeez, look at that. It's an incredible sea of people.
Yeah, there's the VIP camping. Unless you get that one aerial shot, you can't even imagine how far out into the countryside. Those you can see the campers in the back, the RVs and the campers in the VIP camping.
So
but
the
that
space
goes
that's
for miles.
The space that's immediately behind the stage, that's more artist stuff.
That's all artists. If you look to the left of that picture, the right of the stage,
yeah,
the VIP hospitality tents are back there where we fed thousands of people.
Yep.
And then to the left, as you're looking at the picture, to the right side of the stage behind is where we fed all the entertainers. We had the prancing pony.
Yep.
And it was so cool back there. I can't even tell you. Maybe if we can get some cameras up there this year, we can give our viewers a real insight to what that backstage thing. Everyone wanted to come backstage, I get that. But all you see is hundreds of people working their buns off.
It was like bees building a hive.
Yeah.
Just people flying around back there with headsets on and
organized chaos. It really was.
Yeah, crazy.
Do you see on that poster of the day? I think it was. You can bring it over here, I guess. It was this day. There they are, right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did 6. It was 1984, our second year. We thought it'd be a good idea.
6 days of festival.
And we started those bands at 10 o'clock in the morning. Bands like Double Barrel and High Noon.
Well, I'm sure everybody, especially the local groups, really wanted to get on that slate after that first year.
A lot of the groups from the Roosters from Fargo, they were kind of regulars.
High Noon's a pretty well-known local band.
Yeah, and
Good
Lynn,
guys.
we have a picture of High Noon back there, the original band.
Very talented
They
guys.
played at our wedding reception.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No. Rick and, God darn it, I'm so poor at remembering names. And those guys.
Was Bob part of the original group?
I don't know.
Okay.
And then as High Noon evolved, Nick's Wild Ride, Nick went on to be Kenny Chesney's right-hand man, played banjo, guitar, fiddle, sang. We're going to try and get Nick on the show.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Nick Hoffman, great guy, big time hunter. If you folks get the opportunity to check out Nick's Wild Ride, I think, along with Pat and Nicole, Nick Hoffman has the best outdoor and hunting show you've ever seen. He goes all over the world, and he has footage of his hunts, but he goes into the towns. He eats their food, drinks their beer, and meets the people, and it's just a well-rounded, wonderful show.
Great.
Kudos to him. I think he's going to win the Golden Moose Award with that show someday.
Next Wild Ride.
Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's on the Outdoor Channel and maybe the Sportsman Channel, but it's even on Fox Sports Net, where we get our hockey games and stuff.
Yeah.
It's on that as well. Huh. It's a great show.
It's tough to get any Fox Sports channels right now because they're in a big fight with basically all the cable companies except AT&T and Comcast.
Wow, I just switched to AT&T.
So like we switched off of cable into the streaming only and had Hulu Live because aside from Dish and DirecTV, we could get the Fox Sports North channels on the Hulu Live. And then 2 years ago, they got in a fight, and now we can get nothing Fox Sports. So we can't watch any Minnesota Wild, any Minnesota Twins. The Vikings, luckily, are still on local broadcast channels.
That's too bad you're not getting the Wild because they are playing some kick-ass
Yeah,
hockey.
they just beat the number one team in our division two
I know,
games
twice.
in a row. Yeah.
They shut them out the other night, and they beat them last night. And, man, that game came right down to the wire. They
Well, it was
almost tied
4-3, but it wasn't really that close. I mean, the Wild were 4-1 for an entire period.
For all the way up until... I think the
last 5 minutes or something.
Something like that. They
Let
got
off
a
the
few
gas
goals
a little bit.
Second half of the third period.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah.
Wow, they're doing great. I love that.
So anyway, WeFest evolves. You said the 80s and 90s, it's the big ticket.
80s, 90s, 2000s.
Yep. So what's next for the festival after that? Like, what kind of happened as it moved forward?
With the new ownership?
Well, no. As you started growing and taking, let me back up. As you started growing and taking on all this talent, obviously you figured out a lot of things along the way, like you can't do 6 days.
That was such a disaster. Oh,
Can't even imagine how tough that was to orchestrate. Who were some of the highest price acts, the biggest checks you had to write?
Another good story. We got to a point.
'Cause I know Kenny,
Yeah.
10 years ago, was getting $1 million check to play.
We were getting to a point where we are going to have to. We're talking about giving up. I don't know if giving up is the right word, but we didn't want to continue. We had a show where the headliners, and they are great headliners, and I know you love them as much as I did. The headliners were Winona, Sawyer Brown, and Ringo Starr.
Wow. Ringo played a country music festival.
Yeah, Ringo Starr and his all-star band. Randy had for those of you that are wondering who Randy is, Randy Levy owns Rose Productions and became the sole owner of the WeFest. He was still a great friend, and
he bought everybody else out.
Yeah, he was actually a roommate of mine at one time back a long time ago. So that's the last year that we did a show on Sunday, because we've been talking about these people taking the week off, and they did, but they couldn't take the following Monday off. So Sunday, everyone was starting to leave.
Yeah.
So Sunday night was really lame. And for years, I've been trying to get the boys and Cheryl to drop the Sunday. Let the people go home. Let's do Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And they finally thought that was what they should do, and they did. And it worked out wonderful because they could party all night Saturday, and they could sleep in on Sunday, and they could take their time getting home. They could get home, recuperate, and still make it to work on Monday.
Right.
And
Genius
that just
idea.
worked out wonderful. That year, as I said, those were the headliners. And Jill, you can check that poster for me and make sure I'm correct in Winona, Sawyer Brown, and Ringo Starr. We decided we had to borrow some money.
Okay.
And we got Tim McGraw, George Strait, and Kenny Chesney for $1 million apiece.
Oh, jeez. What was an average entertainment budget to put on a WeFest?
$3 million
Total.
As it progressed, it wound up to be about, and until I think we walked away from it or sold it, it was right around $3 million for an entertainment budget. Yeah.
Okay.
They got a lot of money.
Was $1 million kind of a normal price for a headliner?
No.
Okay.
No, as a matter of fact, speaking of that same $1 million, our 30th anniversary, I believe it was our 30th anniversary, we had Alabama there at the beginning, our 10-year anniversary, our 20-year anniversary, our 25th, and maybe another time or two in between. But we needed to have them there for our 30th anniversary, and they weren't touring together. They didn't like each other, and they'd had it, as that can happen.
A falling out, yeah.
Spend that much time together with a group of guys. We had a nice conversation with them and said, we'll give you $1 million. They all came on separate buses, separate transportation, flew in, drove in, whatever. And they really didn't visit, but Gentry was on the stage with me, and we had a nice conversation. But they got back together, and they did our 30th anniversary. And ever since then, they still toured together today. That wasn't really good grammar, but they're still playing together even today, and that's what brought them back together.
Who was the most expensive artist you've ever had?
Well, I think that was the top dollar.
$1 million?
I think that was the top dollar, and George Strait got that, Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney.
Okay.
And I think I'm missing one, but I can't think of it. Do you see that act, Jill? It's down in that area. No, it was Winona. Yep. It was Sawyer Brown. And Sawyer Brown earned that spot. We had them there like 10 times, and they killed the crowd. So
I love those guys.
Yeah, me too. And they're fun. Do you see that year? What year was that?
No, I'm going to bring it on over.
Bring it on over.
I'm bringing it over.
Don't hit me over the head with it. Well, we might not find the answer to this.
Yeah, it's okay. You know, one of the things that we need to do here, TK, because we are going to have to bring this thing in for a landing as we get up against the clock. But I do want to, we do have to have you impart. You find it?
Yep.
Okay. Which one?
Here's the year that I was talking about, where we got Kenny Chesney. I'm pointing. Kenny Chesney, Tim McGraw, and George Strait. That was the year we really put it into high gear. And the year before,
you said you took a loan out to pay for the entertainment.
Yeah, I can't, the writing's too small. I can't really read it. Well, there it is. Well, we had Brad Paisley that year.
What's that, Danny?
We can't see you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do have to throw a little hunting into this because we haven't really talked any hunting. So one of the things that was suggested is we were fortunate enough to partake in some beautifully cooked pheasant tonight.
Oh.
So could you maybe share with us?
Well, that was just smoked pheasant. Put it in a brine, put it in the smoker.
Yep.
And I breasted them out. Lynn and I owned a steakhouse in Lionel Lakes called Red Oak Steaks and Wine. I think we had that for like 7 or 8 years. And
I can attest that the food was fantastic.
It was fantastic. We after 2 years, we garnered a 5-star rating, and we were really, really proud of that. We featured a different wild game every week, which is a big deal, and fresh seafood on the weekends. And we cooked our steaks over burning hickory, so we had wonderful steaks. Occasionally, we served pheasant. Our pheasant was real popular. I used to serve a pheasant. We would grill it over smoked hickory, just the breasts.
Yeah.
None of our wild game was overdone. We wouldn't serve it past medium. Otherwise, we wouldn't be responsible.
So somebody said, I want a medium well, or I want a well, you'd say you have to leave?
No. We just explained to them that
get out.
There's no fat in elk or venison and a lot of that meat. And if you cook it that far, it's going to be really tough. So we educated a lot of people on wild game to eat it medium rare.
Yeah.
And then it's delicious. And the pheasant was cooked in pheasant with a white wine sauce on it, and it was just the breast grilled over the fire. And I guess
because you guys had actual open flame, right? You didn't do gas.
Right. Actually burning hickory.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
You could taste the difference.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That smoke flavor got into the meat, and we were ranked 3rd behind Manny's and Murray's.
Yeah, amazing.
And at the time, the ranking was being done by AOL, America Online.
AOL.
Yeah, remember that?
Famously, the dial-up people.
Yeah. So anyway,
you still had dial-up in your house until we made you get like the live stuff so we could do this.
We had dial-up at our home up in Pillager.
You got a computer in your office in the house right now that looks like it weighs about 1,000 pounds.
Did you hear that, Lynn?
I mean, I'm sure it still works. I you don't throw away that Apple with the green screen if it still works. I get it, but
we have a modern computer up there too. We just haven't transferred everything over to it yet.
Well, that takes time.
Yeah, and it takes time and brains that I don't have.
Well, on that note, speaking of brains that neither of us have, we are going to go ahead and bring this thing in for a landing. So, folks, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Boots and Backstraps.
Come on now.
Yeah, come on now. And if you have any questions for us, we would love to hear them at Boots and Backstraps podcast at gmail.com. And also, if you have any interest in joining us in studio, we talked about doing a contest where we'd draw a lucky fan to come and sit in studio for the filming or airing of an episode.
I have a feeling we'll have some WeFest tickets to give away, too.
I think we just might have some stuff to give away. We got sponsors that are calling us now, and so we got some stuff going on. TK, why don't you close us out, my friend?
I sure had fun with Matt and Can't thank him enough for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I like to close with pretty much the same thing every week. Whether you're belting out your favorite country song or pursuing your favorite game animal, I encourage you to pursue the Lord with that same passion. He'll teach you to shoot straight. We'll see you next week. Come on now.
The hunt is on, looking for backstraps, way deep in the woods, tracking in a swamp to a hay field under the harvest moon. When the tags are filled, it's time to switch up our boots. Head down to the honky tonk, get us a swing dance or two. We're talking about boots and backstraps.